Prince of Djuma, hello little Hosana, fantastic. We are probably only about 400, 500 meters away from where we had him last night, so he didn't really go very far. Now he's just lying on the ground at the base of this beautiful marula tree, and then up inside the marula tree is his kill. Now just as we got here, it started to rain, so there's going to be less rain inside of that tree. So I'm actually hoping that he decides to get up off the ground and climb the tree for us. There we go. There you can see the back end of the kill there. Looks like a little impala from what I can see. Little metatarsal glands, the little black stripes on the backside there. We've positioned ourselves so that we can see him and the kill for the best part right now. But if he does decide to move, then we will also be able to move our vehicle. There's lots of space. Now what's interesting is behind him in the distance, there's actually a herd of impala. I don't know if you guys can see there sort of a little bit to his right-hand side. If we go just, there we are, just in the background there, there's impala lurking. They're maybe 80 meters from him, and they have no idea that he's here. They can't smell him, they can't see him, there's no alarm calling. So it's just another example of how, yes, there's predators around, sometimes the prey knows, but a lot of the time they don't necessarily know that there's a predator here. And this very, very soft rain is also going to make a difference regarding that. Oh, this is fantastic. I'm so excited the guys from Chitwa managed to find him again, and that we are able to show you this beautiful boy. I like when we go from having him last night to then having him this morning and be able to carry it on with the continuum of his life. Obviously, we can't stay with him every second of every day, but these little gaps we get are absolutely fantastic. Now, earlier, we were just waiting for our turn to get into Chitwa, but she started moving a bit more west, and she's on the little Gowrie side, so it's a little bit difficult to see from Gowrie Main itself. However, where she's going is towards sort of Baboon Pan, Twin Dam side, so I'm hoping that at some point, either this morning or this afternoon, we will be able to also see her. That would be fantastic. Now, guys, don't forget we are live and interactive, so please send through your questions and your comments. I want to thank you very much for getting back to me so quickly about who you would like to try and see, either Hosana or Chitwa. And I'd also like to know the reasoning behind why you chose what you chose. And I'm very happy to hear what you'd like from there. My friend Murray's just pulling up now. So Murray and I used to work together on another reserve, and then we were actually watching Tingana the other day, and I pulled up and I said, oh my goodness gracious, here you are, and now he's back with us again. It's so nice to see friends as you carry on with different careers in different places and bump into people. It's absolutely fantastic. It puts a huge smile on your face. Cat in Tampa, you always make me giggle. Cat in Tampa, you're saying, way to go, Hosana, this sure does beat a squirrel. That's so true. Yes, this is a much larger meal than that squirrel. And I think what he did is exactly what we talked about last night, is he just waited for it to get dark, and those impala were still around the dam, and he took advantage of the fact that he can see in the dark and that the impala cannot, and he managed to make his kill. It's absolutely great. Now, what's interesting is we've got a couple of yellow-billed hornbills that are floating around here, and they're not really alarm calling for him, but they are jumping around near him and up and down in the branches and just sort of keeping an eye. Hornbills are not normally ones that would alarm call for a leopard, but it's possible that there might be a nesting site that's near here or around the tree, and that's just making them slightly more nervous that he's here. But I've actually never heard of a hornbill, of a leopard catching a hornbill. And Ferg's just telling me now from where he could see and what he can hear, it sounds as if there is a nesting site inside this tree. So these poor hornbills are trying to feed their chicks in this tree while this leopard has his kill up there. Now, I've seen leopards climb up onto trees and take out baby sociable weavers in the Kalahari, which is near the Kalahari in Botswana and parts of South Africa. And I watched her climb up that tree. It was up a camel thorn tree, and she dug in there and she ate the little birds. But I've never heard of a leopard climbing up, say, a marula tree and then pulling out from a hornbill nest or anything like that, just as a thought. Oh, I see exactly where you're talking about now, Ferg. So there's a wonderful little spot. I'm wondering if we maybe inch forward a little bit. What do you think, Ferg? Forward or back? It's just sort of in here. They keep flying over to where this. Let's try forward here. We'll still be able to see Hosana. There we go. And then we're going to watch these hornbills are actually feeding their young. It's very, very cool. So we've got Hosana completely asleep down here. I do have something exciting. It's our first leopard for this morning's drive. He is very flat cat, so he's not physically being exciting. And you guys were just letting me know that the reason why you chose Hosana over Chitwa is because you've watched him grow up since he was little, and he's the Prince of Djuma. Well, there, thank you, Hosana, for moving a little bit. Grooming himself. He probably got bit by one of the biting flies that I got bit by earlier. And then also some of you were saying, I know I got some messages last night, and then also you're saying now you were so worried yesterday he looked so thin. So just want to reiterate for yesterday, he was not malnourished by any stretch of the imagination. I know that if you ever go and view any sort of wild animals that happen to be in captivity, say in a zoo or in a rehab center, they always have fat round bellies, and that has a lot to do with the fact that they don't actually have enough space to move around, and so it's a little bit harder to see sort of how the wildlife looks out here compared to sort of captive wildlife, which many of you have access to and many of you don't have access to out here. Yesterday he was not hungry. He was just looking for something, but he'd definitely eaten something small in the meantime between when Scott had him chasing warthogs and when we saw him yesterday. So it is good that he does have a nice full meal here, but he was by no means malnourished. So I don't want you guys to worry. If he was malnourished, what you would see is you would see his pelvic bones towards the back and his hip bones really jutting out, and you would start to see the spine also protruding towards the back end there, and he definitely doesn't have any of that. You would also start to see sort of a malnourishment of the coat, and his coat has been absolutely spectacular. So this boy is doing very, very, very well for himself. Now we also have our little hornbill family that's quite busy, and both parents, the male and the female, keep flying back and forth to the hole, dropping off little grub worms, and all you can hear is these screeches of the chicks that are inside basically saying, more, please, more. Lots of activity happening. So now because of this little bit of rain, these little drops that we're getting, Hosana is busy now grooming himself completely. They don't necessarily like to be wet. I know I've told you all the story of that one young male leopard who liked to dive into the water and catch fish. He didn't mind as much, but most leopards don't enjoy it overly much. Sorry, Nix, can you just send through the question just one more time for me, please? Sankit, interesting question. You're curious to know, do predators store excess food if it's readily available? So by that question, I'm assuming what you're meaning, or thinking what you're meaning, we probably shouldn't assume, is that if, let's say, he can catch 5 impala at the same time, does he catch all 5 impala and then store them and then eat on them along the way? I'm guessing that's where you're going with that. And no, so it takes so much energy and so much what's the word? Patience and perseverance and skill to take down one piece of food, so one impala, that it makes no sense. They would exhaust themselves trying to take down several impala at the same time. Also, it would be near impossible because once they've caught one, the others, the jig is up, and then storing them. So what a leopard does is a leopard will kill, like Hosana's done, he'll kill this impala, and then sometimes they cache it under a bush, and sometimes they cache it in a tree, and then they feed on it at their leisure. But it's not like he goes away for several days and then comes back. He feeds on it over the next few days until it's finished. If he were to leave it too much, then obviously another predator can come in and get it. Now he's moved a little bit, and we've got this stupid branch that's in the way, so I just want to reverse the car. I'm just going to angle us at a little bit of a different angle, so I get the feeling that he might be wanting to move up into the tree where the kill is. So we're going to do a little bit of this and not try to get in anybody's way. How's that, Ferg? There we go, and you can see him a little bit better with less branches, so you can get your screenshots. And I do love how you all take screenshots and then send them through to me. It gives me a nice big smile on my face, and some of your screenshots are really, really incredible. Ellen, sorry, did you say that Hosana went into the water a few months ago when he was much younger to catch terrapins? Did he fully immerse himself? Oh, Ellen, that's right. I had forgotten about that a little bit. How they had been catching terrapins because they were little and they couldn't really catch anything else yet. Oh, yes, that's so right. And of course, then he would have managed to find a way to get around discomforts to be able to obtain his food. Oh, thank you for reminding me about that. Can we hear those hornbills? Maybe a little bit. They're really screeching. All right, so... Oh, we've also got rain coming down, so it makes it a little bit harder to hear. Okay, he's going to check and make sure that all of his bits and bobs are in the exact right place that he wants them to be. And then I am convinced he's going to go up this tree and start to eat. From what I can see from the size of the impala that's in the tree, it looks like a lamb. It's not a large impala, so he'll probably finish up eating this one today, possibly this afternoon or possibly late this evening, and then moving on to tomorrow. So with that being said, going back to our other question is, do they catch a lot and then store them sort of all at once, then go back to them when they feel like it? With something like these baby impala, this is only going to fill him up for a few days. So if he has an opportunity when he's done with this impala to kill another one, he will. But that also being said, let's say he's lying down here and a herd of impala are dumb enough to come wandering past, he might make another kill and put it in the same spot and then feed off of both of them, not necessarily leaving, but staying here for that time. I have also watched a male leopard the same age as him catch a baby vervet monkey and keep it alive, trying to get the parents to come down to save it so that he can catch the parents and kill and eat the parents. I watched that earlier this year. It was an incredible sighting. It was a little bit difficult to watch, but it was absolutely incredible. So I think while we're waiting for Hosana to decide what he feels like doing, let's head back up to Ralph, who has some more cute, and Ralph has all the cute things today, up there in the Masai Mara. Prince of Djuma, checking in between all of his toes and making sure that, did you see him there?
Run corner, baby.
That's okay. And checking to make sure that everything's in place. And then Ferg's just busy trying to keep an eye not only on Hosana, but also on these two southern yellow-billed hornbill parrots who are flying in from either direction, actually 360 degrees direction, and each time they're coming in with something different. So we're trying to catch them as well so you can see what they're feeding their chicks, because we can't actually see into where the hole is because there's too much foliage. So we have a sighting for cat lovers and for bird lovers, predator lovers and the avian lovers, all at the same time. Douglas, you would like to know if he has a tick on his nose, and it does look like he has a tick on his nose, maybe even two. Tingana that we saw the other day had a huge couple of ticks on the back of his head. It is tick season. My legs are covered in pepper tick bites. And these ticks are obviously hitching a ride after he's been sort of lying in the grass there. And when they're nice and swollen, they'll fall off. Now, I've never heard of of leopards getting tick bite fever. We get tick bite fever. It's not like Lyme disease. It doesn't kill us, but it's uncomfortable. But I have come into contact with one male lion myself, as well as hearing of two other male lions who have passed away from a disease dealing with a tick overload. Now, that's happened with male lions that have been kicked away from their pride, sort of around 2-3 years old, as that usually happens, and then not being part of a coalition and having to traverse areas that are already high in male coalition territories and just struggling, and then succumbing obviously to these diseases that's coming from ticks. It's very similar to a type of disease that these ticks carry that affect domesticated dogs sometimes. I haven't heard of it affecting leopards, and I think one of the reasons why I haven't heard of it affecting leopards is a lion's diet is not as variable as a leopard's diet. So let's say for some reason Hosana can't catch these impala that he's so fond of. He will still be able to, as we've talked about, catch things like baby mice and scorpions. And you guys were telling me that wonderful story just now about him being younger and catching terrapins. So he's able to keep his health regulated via that. And so the tick load that he would get would not necessarily get to the point where he might get something like that disease I was just talking about. If he were to get a very horrible injury, then that might be a possibility. But in general, I mean, look, lions are resilient, but leopards are also just extremely, extremely resilient. And as you have all seen with Hosana here, I mean, he's had some really hectic circumstances thrown his way, having to sort of raise himself through up into his adulthood with not as much care from his mom as he should have had if she hadn't passed away. So I wouldn't worry too much about him and the ticks. Our Beard, you're saying you had thought you'd heard that the mom gets walled in with the chicks and that the dad feeds them, and now you're wondering if you'd heard wrong or that it's a different bird. No, you have not heard wrong, and no, it's not a different bird, but that's only half the story. So when she's ready to lay the eggs, she goes inside the cavity and she molts off her primary feathers, and her and dad cover it up so that she's stuck in there, and he feeds her through that hole. When her primary feathers have grown back, the chicks have hatched out of the eggs, she breaks through, walls it back up, and then her and the partner feed the chicks that are in there. So yes, you were not wrong. It's just that once the chicks have hatched, then she gets out, because she also needs to be able to sort of function and move once her primary feathers have grown back. But good memory, hi? So you guys do listen. Makes us happy. So we're going from having rain to having sunshine at the same time. So I think maybe let's head on over to Scotty D and see what his update is. Maybe he's got the wild dogs. Maybe he's got tracks. Who knows? We'll have to wait and see. All right, everybody, we are going to leave Mr. Hosana to it. We will probably come back here this afternoon, either myself or Scott. It's very exciting that Scott found Tundi. I'm happy that she popped out. We worked that area so hectically, and I'm glad that she's decided that she wants to be seen. What I think we'll do is we're going to